Hi boys and girls, I'm the reading teacher. Do you know what your schema is? Your schema is information that you already know about a lot of things. Let's say I asked you to go with me to the park today. Your schema would be telling you, oh, a park, slides, and swings, and benches, and things to climb on. And then, let's say you go to the park and it has a rock wall. Well, you've just added to your schema. And now the next time someone says, come to the park, maybe you already are thinking, ooh, rock wall. All right, well, good readers, think about what they know about topics before they read about them. And then you can sort of compare and contrast, see what you already knew about something, and then add to your schema if you didn't know about it. I want you to think, what is in your schema already about fairy tales? Can you think of something you already know about a fairy tale? Did you say sometimes they have princesses in them? Or a castle? Or a king? Or a queen? Or someone who's rich? Or someone who's poor? Or a good fairy? Or a bad witch? Those are all things that are in my schema. Those are all things that I've learned about fairy tales. Today we're going to read a fairy tale, and it's called The Princess and the Pig. And I want you to use what's in your schema to help you understand the story better. This story is written by Jonathan Emmett, and it's illustrated by Polly Bernate. The Princess and the Pig. Not that long ago, in a kingdom not far from here, a farmer was traveling home from the market with a cartload of straw. The farmer was so poor that he didn't have a horse and had to pull his own cart. In the back of the cart lay a tiny pink piglet. Nobody wanted to buy the piglet at the market, but the farmer had taken pity on it. I'll call you Pigmella, he decided, as this seemed like a good name for a pig. It was a hot day, and the farmer stopped to rest in the shade of a great castle. Far, far above him, on a high balcony, a queen was inspecting her new baby daughter. The queen was so rich that she had 7 nannies and didn't have to look after her own child. The queen picked the baby out of her cradle and held her at arm's length. I'll call it Priscilla, she decided, as this seemed like a good name for a princess. So already, is this matching what you have in your brain or what's in your schema about fairy tales? It's matching things for me, the costumes that they're wearing, the wide open fields, the man who's pulling his cart behind him because he's so poor, with the castle in the background. A moment later, a wet squelching noise came from the baby's diaper, followed closely by an awful smell. Yuck! Shrieked the queen, dropping the baby and running off to find the royal nannies. She left so quickly that she didn't notice she had dropped the baby over the edge of the balcony. How many of you are thinking, what might happen? Down, down, down went the baby into the farmer's cart. And up, up, up flew the piglet into the princess's cradle. So they've switched places. I wonder what's going to happen. When the queen returned and found the piglet lying where the baby should have been, she let out an even louder shriek and fainted into the nanny's arms. The king thought he knew what happened. A bad fairy has done this, he explained. The fairy wasn't invited to the princess's christening, so she's turned the baby into a piglet to get her revenge. It's the sort of thing that happens all the time in books. And look, he's holding up the story Sleeping Beauty, because that does seem similar to Sleeping Beauty, doesn't it? Meanwhile, the farmer had returned home and was surprised to discover a baby girl lying where the piglet should have been. The farmer's wife thought she knew what had happened. "A good fairy has done this," she explained. "The fairy knew how poor and honest we are and how badly we wanted a child, so she turned the piglet into a baby. It's the sort of thing that happens all the time in books." And look, she's holding up the book Thumbelina, which is another famous fairy tale and very similar to this. And so, without a second thought, the baby became Pigmella, the farmer's daughter, and the piglet became Priscilla, the royal princess. It wasn't long before Pigmella was able to eat, walk, and get dressed all by herself, and the farmer and his wife soon forgot that she had ever been a pig. Things were not so easy for Priscilla. Oh no. Look at these pictures. They say it all, don't they? But the king and queen never let anyone forget that she was really a princess. As Pigmella grew older, she grew smarter and beautiful and was admired by everyone she met. As Priscilla grew older, she grew not so smart and not so beautiful and was avoided by everyone she met. Avoided seems like the opposite of admired, doesn't it? Then one day, the farmer's wife overheard some of the castle's servants talking about the princess who had turned into a pig. "It's just like what happened to Pigmella," she told her husband, "only the other way around." The farmer soon guessed what happened. "The princess and the pig must have swapped places somehow," he explained. "It's the sort of thing that happens all the time in books." And he's holding up The Prince and the Pauper, which is another famous fairy tale. The poor farmer and his wife were very unhappy. They loved Pigmella, but they knew they must return her to her rightful home. Pigmella was also unhappy. She loved the farmer and his wife and did not want to live with anyone else. But they were an honest family, so the next day they all went to the castle to see the king and queen. The king and queen listened to the farmer's story. But they didn't believe it. "What nonsense!" cried the queen. "Ridiculous!" The king laughed. "This girl may be smart and beautiful, but she does not look or speak like a real princess." The queen thought she knew what was happening. "It's a trick!" she declared. "This girl is just a farmer's daughter pretending to be a princess so that she can marry a prince. It's the sort of thing that happens all the time in books." See Puss in Boots? And so Pigmella returned home with the farmer and his wife, where she married a young shepherd and lived happily ever after, and never once wished that she'd been a princess. And Priscilla also got married to a handsome prince, although he had to be talked into it. Priscilla was changed into a pig by a bad fairy, the king explained. "But once you kiss her, the spell will be broken and she will turn back into a beautiful princess," added the queen. "It's the sort of thing that happens all the time in books," they assured him. The Frog Prince. But unfortunately for the prince, it's not the sort of thing that happens in this particular book. So I love this story because it took so much of what I have in my schema about fairy tales and put it in here. I hope you really liked this story, and you can go to your library and check out some different fairy tales that maybe were in this book, like The Frog Prince, or The Princess and the Pauper, or Sleeping Beauty was in this book too, wasn't it? All right, good job, friends, and next time you're reading, think about what's in your schema already, and that will help you understand the story better.